volunteered, so I am here for this. And as you could tell with Sid speaking, he did very well. He's very confident, and he makes decisions and he sticks with them and never hesitates. That's the Sid I knew. And then trauma came to our home, and Sid changed. And he changed dramatically. You would not have recognized him. I didn't even recognize him. I could see him, but he wasn't the person that I knew. All of a sudden, he couldn't make any decisions at all. And I have to look at my notes because I'm sort of losing it here a little bit. He was very confident and self-assured. But what was happening was when he came home, he would go into a trance and just sit in a rocking chair and rock and rock and rock. And it was hard for me because he just wasn't the type to do that. And I'm just trying to remember all these things that I wanted to tell you. As he mentioned in his speech, he was second-guessing himself, and he would go over and over many things. I think I'm just going to continue. With this trauma that happened, it only took 56 seconds. But it really made a difference, and it's something that we will live with forever, and we do every day, but we're able to get along with it. I'm sorry, I just can't quite think. So the trauma came home, Sid changed. We didn't really understand what it was. I was trying my best to make things work. It wasn't working, as he mentioned, all these different things that he mentioned in his speech. So I was just not sure what to do a lot of times, and I would just sort of try to sweep it under the rug. And I do that sometimes when I'm cleaning them. If I'm in a hurry, I'll just sweep it under and nobody knows. You're supposed to laugh at that, by the way. And what was happening was we needed help, but I didn't know how to go about getting help. And when I called the police station, they just wanted to know what platoon he was on. And I said, he's on such and such a platoon. They said, well, he's working next Thursday. And this was Sunday. And I said, okay. I said, what do I do from now till Thursday? And he said, well, you'll just call in on Thursday. Click. And I'm a young mother with 2 young children, and I just didn't know how I was ever going to cope with it. But I'm very determined, so I definitely did the best I could and got him through that. And we made it, and we made it all the way to today. Thank you. So, since I couldn't get any help from the police department, I called the association, and they were able to help me. And they gave me information, which was it gave me a name for a psychologist. And I got his name and called and made an appointment. Well, I did that part. Then the big thing was to get Sid to actually go there. So we went on a little journey. It was our coffee trip. And he didn't know anything about it, and all of a sudden we're in front of Ottawa University, and he said, well, we're going in here, we're just going to visit somebody. Because there was no way he was going in, because there was nothing wrong with him. Everybody at work just kept telling him, oh, you know, Sid's great, he's the hero, da-da-da-da-da. He's fine. fine is feelings inside not expressed. And that's what was happening. Because he was fine at work, he would come home, he wasn't fine. All of a sudden, there was another sit there. And it was hard to cope with. It was hard for our children. They were young, so they didn't realize a lot of things, which was good, because when he wrote his book back in 2012, that's the first time they knew about it. So we both did a very good job of dealing with it, moving ahead, and continuing with our life. So I'm very proud of him, as you guys will know. So anyway, we got into the doctor's office, and I said to him, Sid, this is so-and-so, and he's going to help you. And I said to the doctor, this is my husband, and you're going to work with him, and you're going to make him better. And I'm sitting in the hallway waiting, and I'm not leaving. And I think I scared them, because all of a sudden Sid's much better. It took a lot of time, though. It didn't just happen. It was a long, long time. And as I sort of said at the beginning, we work at it every day. It never goes away. But it's something that we can deal with. And we're strong, so we will. So what I did after visiting the doctor, he said, go home and try to make things into a calm environment, as one suggested. And with two rambunctious boys, that wasn't quite easy all the time. So quite often they had to go outside, and there were quiet voices inside the house. But they learned, and they learned there was nothing wrong with Dad. Dad was just hurting. And Dad needed those hugs, and he needed the help. And that's what they were, even at their young ages of 4 and 5. That's what they were there for. So we put a schedule on the fridge so that Sid, his confidence would slowly be built up. You would never know that now, because back then he just couldn't decide whether to get dressed or not get dressed. It was a big chore. So I would just put clothes out, and at first I tried to let him choose things, and then I decided, no, you're wearing these 3 things, don't worry about that, just get them on and get out, and we're going. Because if I didn't, we'd still be in the bedroom trying to decide, well, am I gonna wear blue or green or whatever, and I don't have time for that, and I don't have the patience. So I started making the major decisions, and they weren't major, but it helped him come back, because he just lost that confidence, and he needed some help to do that. And back 29 years ago, there wasn't anybody to call, really, that was going to be able to help you. So I decided that I was going to be the one, and I just kept working at it. And there's a lot of memories that are hard for me to talk of. So I'll tell you soon. I want to say that this one day Sid came home, and I was trying not to have any surprises at all, because if you have a surprise, all of a sudden he would just get into a bit of a rage. But he came in, and I said, oh, we're gonna have fish, and or we can have chicken for supper, which would you like? And I was trying to be really nice, and I had the kids all set up nice, and everything was great. And he says, the last time I made a decision, I killed somebody. Oh, we're gonna have chicken. And it was a very quiet supper. And the kids knew, we're having chicken, then we're having a bath, a book reading, and going to bed. So no fighting, nothing, just get through the meal. And we did it. A way of rebuilding his self-worth and his confidence, it went back to my mother. And when I was little, my father was very strict, and you had meat and potatoes, and if you had dessert, that was...
Whole issue of saving relationships and building resiliency. Dan Bowers, first eyes. we put that in for you. It's a microphone.
Wow, tough act to follow there. Well, since loading that, I'll just introduce myself quickly. My name is Dan Bowers. And really all that's relevant about my life, at least for the portion of this program, is that yes, I've been diagnosed with post-traumatic stress and depression, and I've been living with both for many, many years. Much like many of the other presenters here today, it was back in a time when there was no support and no help. It was get out there and do it on your own. I think before I speak about my program itself, I think you need to know my motivation. And it's a story not too dissimilar to what you heard from Sid and Judy, although it certainly had a more tragic ending. While we're working that out, something I'm particularly proud of, and that is that this program, the First Eyes program, is the first and only one of its kind in Canada, and in fact, North America, and from my research, it's the only program of its kind in the world. It is fully 100% proactive and deals with preventative care. We're on that side. I'll get back to my presentation. Sitting at home after I was retired, and I started working with Sid a few years ago on team building and peer support. And I was getting very frustrated at seeing headlines such as the one that's up there right now. 6 months, 23 first responders, suicides, what are we doing to help? That came out in September of 2014. And every time I read about another suicide, I literally felt like I was getting stabbed in the heart. It bothered me to no end. And in April of 2015, I came down and fired up my computer, and I saw this article out of CBC Edmonton. And the headlines are exactly as they appeared that day. Greg Turner's wife, Bridget, warns other paramedics could be in danger. Bridget Turner tells the story of Edmonton paramedic who killed himself earlier this year, which was in January of 2015. And I sat at my computer for quite a while looking at it and wondering if I should open it or not, because I know how I felt every time I read about another one. It hurt too much. And I don't know why I did, but I did. I opened it up and I started reading the article, and Bridget was very forthcoming with Miriam Warmaka, who was the journalist doing the interview, actually for which she won an award for the interview. And as I read Bridget's story, I could feel this sense of frustration building up in me. I could identify with what she was seeing happening in front of her. And as a person who's been diagnosed, I knew that each time I read a new paragraph, there was another sign and symptom. Oh my gosh, yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah, I see them, they're all there. Bridget didn't know that. There was no support, there was no help. she could see stuff unfolding, but she couldn't identify what it was. And she slowly watched as Greg moved into further stages of post-traumatic stress. Like I said, each time as I kept reading down, the frustration level just kept building and building and building. And then I read about Greg's passing. He took his life at work in January 2015. And I decided that at that point, the frustration boiled over to anger. And I was angry at the world. How can we let this happen? How can we let stuff like this happen? There's got to be a way. There has to be a better way. And I remember closing my laptop computer, and there's no other way to describe it other than it felt like somebody grabbing me literally and pulling me out of the chair. And I remember standing in my office yelling, "No more, no more, no more." I was sick of reading the headlines and feeling helpless. I wanted to be in the game, not on the sidelines. And I reached out to Bridget that day. First, I contacted Marion Warmica, who from TP Edmonton, who was very gracious. And sometime after that, I reached out to Bridget. I spoke with Bridget. We continue to speak on a fairly regular basis. I know Bridget's watching today, as is Greg's family. Some of the presenters today ahead of me spoke about being visual. I'm very much a visual person. I could read a book 100 times, I can't remember page one, but the point that I'm trying to make here, with Bridget's permission, is to show you photos to what a normal couple looks like. And that's Greg and Bridget on their wedding day. Greg holding his infant child at home. And a family picture in Calgary at a family wedding. Not all that many years before. When I look at it, I see a normal family. You don't see the injury or the pain that he's going through. You just see a normal family. And Bridget was able to finally convince Greg at one point that he needed help, and they set up an appointment to go for help. But Greg's life ended not too long before the scheduled appointment. So Bridget's story just ripped me apart. And I remember the first time I spoke to Bridget, which was a pretty delicate conversation. And I told her that I admired her strength for reaching out and trying to help others in behind that were following. And the last thing I said to Bridget in that conversation was that I don't know what I'm going to do, Bridget. I really don't. But I promise you, Greg's death will not be in vain. I give you my word. And Bridget continues to be very supportive of this program and everything that I'm doing moving this forward. So I needed some time to think about what can I do. I'm not university educated. I've got a crapload of lived experience and depression. What can I do? What can one person do? And I studied the mental health system, and I looked around and I thought, wow, So if we look at the first line segment, we see life now, which for me means pre-diagnosis. Your normal family, you're starting out, you're going through your issues, whatever, but there's no diagnosis. You're just a normal family going through life. Then we look at the next line segment that says diagnosis. And that's the period of time after you're diagnosed with a mental injury or illness and moving out of there or moving forward with that. Now there are all kinds of programs that deal with things after the fact, after you've been diagnosed. All kinds of support programs. And that's when it hit me. How about we fill those with a proactive program? Why do we have to wait to be diagnosed to help ourselves? First size tree is my mental health tree. For those of you who know me in the audience, I can't draw a straight line with a ruler, so this is my Picasso. But that's when it hit me. Why do we have to wait for a diagnosis or things go wrong? Because now we're playing catch up. And as so many other speakers have spoken to today, once you've started down that road, it means it actually started a little while ago. Too late to play catch up. And it's the wrong time to be making major decisions, possibly life-altering decisions. So I came up with this concept. And I'll speak to the program itself in just a moment. What I will do today is as I did in my last presentation, as I will do in every presentation until I can no longer present. And I will dedicate this program to Bridget Turner and family in memory of Greg Turner, her husband, her father, and an Edmonton paramedic. And to all those that have taken their own lives as a result of workplace mental injury or illness. This is for you. 4 quick definitions that I will refer to in my time. And first one is an at-risk person, and that's the person who may actually be affected by mental injury or illness as a result of their employment. Partner is all-encompassing. A partner can be a wife, husband, common law girlfriend, boyfriend, close friend, or family member. Basically, it's the person you're going to sit down and make your plan with, somebody very close to you. Lived experience is a person, like many of us in the room, who successfully completed their mental health treatment of a work-related mental injury or illness. And positive growth, as Sid referred, is a lived experience person who has been living relatively symptom-free for an extended period of time. So who did I develop this program for? Well, the program is developed for anyone in any line of work. All right? Statistically, the numbers are higher in the first responder field, but this program isn't just for first responders or military. It's open to anybody in any line of work that's at risk of developing a mental injury or illness as a result of their employment, as well as anyone who lives with or cares about somebody who may develop such a condition. So going back to my definition of partner. You see, because when I looked at this program and the whole overview of everything with the mental health system, what I saw was that things were incredibly out of balance. All right? Scales were tipped. All the attention was going to the person suffering the mental injury or illness. Everything was going there. What about the wife and children, or the spouse and the children? You see, they don't get to go to work. They don't get to get mental injury or illness. They just have to live with the fallout that's associated with it. And that fallout is serious. I know. 2 ex-wives, several failed relationships, severe alcohol abuse, distance between my kids and myself, and many other factors. So I know the wave of devastation that I left behind me wasn't just my little mental illness or injury. It had an effect on all these people. So how dare we not acknowledge and think of them and make them part of the solution? How dare we even think about not doing that? It's time to bring the scales back to level. So what is the program? What makes up the program? The program starts with a 3-hour presentation. I'll discuss in a little more detail shortly. Five? Am I down to 5? Sorry. Okay. Sorry. Followed by an 8-module follow-up program that you worked from in the comfort of your own home. You have access to my website. You work through 8 modules that I created from your home, your own time, where you create your own personalized plan ahead of time. And I hope, like Kelly, you never have to use it, but if you do, you've already talked about it with your partner. What does that do? Well, it does a lot of things. Number one, brings you some comfort. It's cheap insurance, right? And just by opening the conversation between you and your partner, you're reducing the stigma. You can talk about it openly because the partner is going to be as equally involved with the fallout as you. I've really got a good one. So the 3-hour presentation that you attend, I have a mental health clinician come in, and we talk about the signs and symptoms of the more common mental injuries or illnesses. We talk about how to select a mental health professional. Like any other profession, you've got to do your homework, because if you happen to go to one who doesn't know what they're doing, the chances are they're going to do a hell of a lot more damage than good. And so we talk about how to select a clinician, what questions to ask. We also talk then about the effects on partners and friends, both short-term and long-term, and the effects on children, because they are going to know what's going on. Why isn't mommy or daddy the same person as they used to be? Why don't they come home and play with me anymore? Do they not love me? They're affected big time. Second part of the presentation is my talk about lived experience as it relates to my ex-wives and partners and children. And then I do an introduction to the 8-module program, 30 minutes of questions and answers. So it's a proactive approach. What does that give you? Well, when you're finished, you've got a plan. You've discussed it, you've worked through everything, all the 8 modules. And the 8 modules take a long time to put together, and I've done a lot of research, and a lot of it's built on my own lived experience, but a lot of it is with mental health clinicians, lived experience people, Sid and Judy. And last but certainly not least, the far too many interviews I did with widows. So that's what I used to create the framework for the 8 modules. So what it provides for is early detection, which means early intervention, increased chance of successful recovery in a shorter time period, and to minimize the impact on everybody involved. Why? Very simply, it's an attempt to save relationships, families, and lives. You know, Sid and Judy's story, that's pretty rare. Because most people that I know that go through this end up in divorce or separation. And how can you blame them? You know, you're asking your partner to take on a whole bunch more responsibility. You're the one that's at risk. You come home, as you did, Sid, I'm trying to say who you will, and can't deal with the kids, can't deal with a lot of stuff. So Judy now becomes caretaker to Sid, caretaker to the children, looking after everything in the household. That's now on her plate. Well, yeah, and if you got time to go to work. And we wonder why there's resentment after a period of time. I didn't bargain for this. This was 50-50. Now it's 100-0. And where's the support for Judy?